We have talked about how to name them now. Let's talk about the inside. Let's talk about those angle measures and what it means to us. First, we're going to start by just reminding ourselves that the sum of the angles in a triangle have to equal what? It's a number. How many degrees do all the angles in a triangle add up to? 180 degrees. Let me give you a way to hopefully remember that. Think of a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 90-degree angles, doesn't it? Just like what I drew there. Now think about it. If I have 4 90-degree angles, that's 360 degrees. Remember when we were doing formulas for area? We said that this formula was base times height, but if we cut it in half, we would get a triangle, right? Well, think about cutting this in half. If I just cut 360 degrees in half, I get 180. That's where it comes from. Okay, we're still using half of a rectangle, so we have half of the degree measures. So a triangle's angles will always add up to 180 degrees. Well, let's write an equation that explains that mathematically. How about something like measure of angle A, that's how we write that notation, M for measure, angle symbol, and then name it with the letter, plus the measure of angle B, plus whatever the measure of angle C is, better equal 180. That's kind of like a formula that you would use all the time. Whatever your angle A is, plus your angle B, plus whatever your angle C is, will always equal 180 degrees. Always true. And if we know that, then we can use an equation like this to help us find a missing angle measure. So let's look at some examples and see how we're going to solve for missing angles. All right, so this first one here. I see 2 out of the 3 that have measures. So the one that doesn't have, I'm going to put an X. That's my unknown. So let's come up with an equation. Let's see what you all think about this equation. How about 60 plus 40 plus X equals 180? Is that correct? Yeah. What do y'all think about that? All right, take all 3 of them, whatever each angle is, and let's add them together. And that should always equal 180 degrees. So start by writing your equation with what you're given from your triangle. Now let's simplify the expression, but we're going to do all that over here. So let's write it again real quick. 60 plus 40 plus X equals 180. First thing I should do is combine like terms. I can combine my whole numbers. 60 and 40 is 100. Then I still have plus X, and that's equal to the 180. What do I do now to figure out what X is?
I take 180 minus 100.
I subtract, because 100 is being added to X, so I do the inverse, the opposite. I subtract 100 from both sides. So I get X would equal 80. Now, we should never get these wrong. Just like before where we could check our answers, we can take our 60, our 40, and our 80 and add them together to make sure we didn't make a silly math mistake and make sure that we get 180 back. You should always check yourself on these. Okay, let's look at the next one. Somebody raise your hand and tell me what equation we could write for this. Now that I've done one for you, let's think about what this equation would be. You said 40 plus 2x, okay? I heard equals 180 and then I heard plus 90. Guys, you have to add 3 things together. This is to tell you something, and a lot of us forget about that. That little box is 90 degrees, write it. So that means I really have 40 plus the 2x plus 90 equals 180. If you don't add that 90 in there, you're going to get a very incorrect answer. Because 90 degrees is already being taken up by this right angle. What can we combine? 40 and 90. So these two are like terms. 40 plus 90 is 130 plus 2x equals 180. We always get rid of our constant first. If you guys needed to, you could write your roadmap here to help you. But we always get rid of the number without the variable. So since 130 is being added, I subtract 130. And I have to do that from both sides. So I get 2x's is equal to, what's 180 minus 130? 50. Now guys, notice, in your triangle, doesn't it say 2x? So doesn't this say 2x equals something?
Yes.
So right now, we actually know what this angle is. That angle is 50, because that angle is represented by 2x. Now, if we wanted to know what just x was, though, we'd still have to divide both sides by 2, and x would be what?
25.
But see, you need to realize that 25 was not technically the answer. Yes, 25 is x, but it was asking for what 2 x's are. So that angle measures really 50 degrees. And oops, I didn't solve in the appropriate spot. Y'all see what I mean there, the difference between x and the actual angle measure? We need 2 of those x's to be that angle. Let's look at our last one. Let's figure out this interesting problem here. Me gusta mucho. I like this one a lot. Even bilingual. Okay. Now, the reason I like this one is because you probably are looking at it like, whoa, that's a lot of weird stuff. But it's just something to represent each angle measure. To me, I could just say, okay, that 8x minus 1 plus this other thing, which is 3x plus 4, plus this other one, 3x plus 9, all has to equal 180, right? Because all 3 of those angles have to add up to 180. Now, when we do something like this, we have to combine like terms. All of the things that have x's, go through and circle those. Make sure you catch the symbol in front of it, though, so you know whether they're positive or negative x's. All of my x's I can combine. If I have 8 positive x's with 3 more positive x's, how many do I have so far? 11. 8 x's with 3 more is 11 x's. With 3 more, 14. So I have 14 x's. And now let's underline our whole numbers. I have a -1, a +4, and a +9. Let's put all our positives together. What's 4 plus 9? 13. But then I owe $1. So instead of 13, what do I have? 12. Okay, so that's a +12, and that equals 180. So you need to combine your like terms. Is everybody good with how we did that?
Yeah.
Now we just need to solve. Again, we always get rid of our constant, the number without the variable. So since 12 is being added, I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I have 14x equals 180 minus 12? 168. Now what do we do to figure out x? Divide by 14. These are being multiplied, so I do the inverse divide. So we need to do 168 divided by 14. Well, 14 is only going to fit into 16 once. I'm going to have 2 left over, bring down to 8. 14 twice is 28. So what does x equal?
12.
Okay, now x equals 12. Now guys, that does not tell me what any of those angles measure. But can we use what we know for x to figure out each of those angle measures? Okay, because what we would need to do is, for this x, we're going to put in 12. What's 8 times 12? 96, math fact. 96, and then minus 1? So this one should be 95 degrees then, according to what we got for x. Now, let's plug in the 12 here. What's 3 times 12? 36 plus 4 more? Okay, so this one should be 40 degrees then, according to what we got for x. Now let's plug in 12 for this x. What's 12 times 3? 36 plus 9 more? That's 45. What should we do to make sure that those are actually all correct? Add it and make sure it actually gets 180. So let's do 95 plus our 40 plus our 45. And let's see if we actually did all of our math correct. That's 10. That's 10. That's 180. So we checked out. So we know that all of our work that we did, both solving for x and then using x to figure out those angle measures, was correct. How do we feel about that? Good, because the class is over. Let's pass out homework and be ready to go.